You know, they say if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
Nothing nice to say with Aldo NICE.
I ain't got nothing, no nothing. I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing nice to say. I ain't got nothing nice to say at all. I ain't got nothing, no nothing. I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing nice to say. I ain't got nothing nice to say at all.
So I won't say nothing at all.
I ain't nothing nice. You hear me?
What about your life is gonna come up right now that you're not gonna be comfortable with?
Hey, there's so many things you're not privy to in my life.
I don't know. I was kind of thinking of interesting things to talk to you about on the podcast, and it was like I was drawing a blank. I don't know how interesting of a human being you are. I said, whoa, welcome to the Best Friend Weekend podcast. More specifically, Nothing Nice to Say interview series. It's your man, Aldo Nice, and I am joined today by a special guest. I normally let my guests introduce themselves, and this felt like the right time for this conversation because this astounding young lady has a lot of expertise in a particular field that a lot of people are kind of getting into at this point. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself however you want to introduce yourself, and that's what we're gonna call you throughout this episode, young lady.
Well, first of all, I like that that introduction of astounding. So my name is Tonya, and I'm actually Al's oldest sister.
Okay, well there you go. I mean, I might have to I might have
Or
did the
should I
edit
say,
thing.
should I say Alan at this point?
Is that what we're doing? No. We're gonna call me Aldo. So like I might just go ahead. We talked about editing afterwards. I might start editing out last names and things of the sort. But I mean, it's fine. Well, I appreciate having you on the show. I do have this episode that I don't know if I talked to you about. But I do have an episode in the works where I'm going to have your mother on here because she's been
Oh, wow.
she's been telling me she wants to talk about my usage of the N-word. So I want to talk to her about that. And she says basically that's her two gripes, that the N-word and that we say the F word on the podcast. So just think that's
Well, that one is going to be one that I'm definitely going to have to tune into.
I don't know if I like that. I feel like it's going to be a 45 minutes of chastising me about how I choose to live my life. But if we
Which is why I love to hear it.
Okay, yeah, but that one's on the back burner. So this is a close second. So we got a Mother Junior on here. So I mean, one of the reasons that I definitely wanted to bring you in, and we talked about this earlier, is that you're one of the people who's been kind of doing the work from home thing for a while. So you were like one of the first people I knew who worked from home as a thing. And now with the current state of how everything is happening in the country, internationally, how things are just transpiring really quickly, it seems like a large portion of the population is working from home right now. So I'm going to ask you a little bit about the work from home thing. This is a part one. I think I'm going to have a recurring series of work from home things. And I'm going to, obviously I'm not going to have my sister on here without asking you some questions about, you and I and other things of the sort. But let's hop right into the working from home thing. Can you tell me, like, just describe a little bit? You don't have to talk about which particular company, but who do you work for? I mean, like, what do you do? Like, what's your occupation?
So my occupation is in predictive modeling and forecasting. And I actually work for a Florida property insurance company. And our business is primarily in Tallahassee and Jacksonville and all throughout Florida.
Okay, so and you don't live in Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Florida, or anything like that. You live in D-Town Boogie, Dallas. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's
I
what
live
y'all
in the
call it.
Dallas-Fort Worth area. I do. No, originally I did work out of Tallahassee, out of the office for about a year. But I've been working from home here in Dallas for about 14 years now. I still can't believe it's been that long, but yeah, it's been 14 years.
So, how did you swing that? How does one swing such a lifestyle change?
And that is a question I get quite often. And, I think it was just by the grace of God and just me stepping out on faith. So initially, I loved the job. I was only there at this particular company for about a year. I had just transferred from Dallas. And I'm sure you can imagine the big city life of Dallas and the Metroplex and everything going on here, moving to Tallahassee, Florida, which, I mean, no, not to Tallahassee at all. Great place, great to raise a family for, college life, all that good stuff. But it was no Dallas, and most of my friends were still here. My family wasn't nearby, but again, I love the job. It's just that my personal life was suffering while I was there, and I kind of stepped out on faith after a year. Of course, after my contract was up, and I said, basically, I was ready to move on, but I did tell my supervisor at the time that I was okay with helping them transition until they found another person. So in the meantime, I kind of worked from Dallas. And honestly, that kind of turned into me working temporarily. They never looked for somebody else. They knew that I guess I was a great worker, and they were, at the time, they were cool with me working from here.
And they're just like, you know what? It's better to just, I mean, it's a lot of different people that I hear that have this kind of thing going on, and they'll have people working remotely. And it's just a thing, right? Like one or two people just work remotely, and it just kind of becomes the situation. So do you like the idea of working from home in that way?
Yeah, I actually do. And you're right about that. Like initially, it was just me and maybe one other person in the company who had that arrangement. But now, like I think over the last 5 years, our company has actually started an initiative, a work at home initiative, or alternative work arrangement is what they called it, where I think we have at least 20 or so employers now out of the 2,500 out of the company that do work from home. So it's actually becoming more and more common.
I mean, but I'm thinking about this, and I've been saying this and just kind of floating it to different people as I think that I think this is where it's going. I mean, I think that after everything settles down from the coronavirus, when things get bad, then things get back right. I think that it's going to be a climate of more people understanding that a lot of jobs can happen with people working remotely. Do you think it's going to increase the number of people who work remotely at your particular job?
I actually do, and it's really started to make a difference already. Like, of course, Florida, they have the what is it called? They do have the mandate now where everyone should be. It's only essential employers who are working.
I think
so all of my employees now are working from home.
I think I heard that
And
Andrew Gillum
quite-
had something to do with that because he had the corona in that hotel room with that man. But
Anyway, yeah, but yeah, most of them they are, and we actually had a follow-up call today, and everybody seems to be enjoying it. I was going to give them a list of all of my tips and things that I thought, worked well.
Oh shit, she the expert. Oh shit.
Anyway, I was just going to give them a little tidbit of my life and what I've been, some of the challenges I went through. But honestly, a lot of them, as they went around and kind of shared what they experienced so far within just this 1 week, they kind of hit it on the head. They knew exactly what their downfalls were and what they had to change to make themselves more productive from home. But for the most part, everybody is enjoying it. Now, of course, it depends on your personality and your level of social interaction. But for the most part, everybody seems to be enjoying it.
Well, I definitely want to get into those particulars because I think that's a big part of, some of our listeners, this is probably going to be their first taste of actually trying to conduct their day-to-day business operations from home. And they're understanding that it's a shift. It's different than what you normally do. So I do want some of those same tips because I think that you can help a lot of people kind of settle into this new normalcy that they're going to have to going through for the next few weeks or so. But before I ask you that, I want to ask you this. You said something about it depends on what type of person you are. How do you think that you get your energy? Like my supervisor, actually the boss asked me today, she was like, are you she said, you're such an extrovert. How are you doing in the house with all of this social distancing? And I had to reply to her. I'm like, I'm not an extrovert. That's the part that people don't get. I was like, I don't get my energy from talking to people and being in these streets. I get my energy from being home and being quiet. Like it requires energy for me to be
to
like
get out.
personable. Yeah, like that doesn't make me happy. Like to be personable. I'm personable
Right.
because I know that's part of I have that skill, but it's not who I am. How do you see yourself?
Well,
Do you see
I
yourself
think a
more
lot
as
of
a
us are like that, and I find that strange that you say that because I really didn't picture you as that person,
Mhm.
but I'm probably more like that than you are. I'm definitely more of an introvert, and I do get most of my energy from just, sitting back, relaxing, and like what zaps my energy is a crowd and
Mhm.
too much going on
Mhm.
and too many things to do. So, yeah, I guess it just depends on the person as
Yeah.
to whether the work at home thing is good would work for you.
So that's interesting that you say we're similar in that regard. Like a lot of the guys who do the best friend weekend thing with me, they always talk like this past best friend weekend. They came over and they was like, "Well, I know what you about to do. You about to be in that room sleeping, and we're not gonna bother you for the next like whatever time because I know you. We want to go out later. So if we bother you right now, we know you're not gonna want to do that." Like so, I mean, that's really. I'm like, leave me alone until it's time to do stuff, and then when it's time to do stuff, I'm all with it. But I mean, it is what it is. So, I mean, obviously you're saying it works probably a little bit better for an introverted person. And I mean, I got my master's degree primarily online for that same thing. I was able to allocate time and say, look, every Saturday when I got off of work, it was when I didn't have to work, Saturday and Sunday was the time when I would sit down, take out my computer, work on whatever bibliographies I got to do, whatever papers I got to write, whatever readings I need to do. I would do that on the weekends, like, and I was really like I really had structure to how I did graduate school. So I always tell people I'm pretty good at working from home because I was able to go through grad school in that way. What are
Yeah,
some
that makes sense.
I mean, so what are some tips that you have? I'm gonna start with some basic questions like in your house, where do you work when you work?
Well, that's one thing for sure. I have to designate a certain area. Like I actually have an office. When I first started working, I'll be honest, yeah, I fell into the trap of, oh, okay, it's fine just to pull my laptop over and maybe work from my bed, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I did that, but that lasted all of a week. And I realized that that was not productive. So, yeah, I actually I have an office where I physically go into every day.
Okay, so
I
that's
make sure that there's enough light. Like there's several places in my house that I could have set up the office, but I selected a place just because I like a light, bright area and something cheerful surroundings. I chose that particular area.
TV or no
Designate
TV.
an area. I am a TV freak, so yes, I do have the TV on in the back as white noise.
And why is that not called black noise? Is that racial?
Oh, here we go.
And now a word from the Black Coffee Company. No. I was just asking about that just to kind of see. So, okay, so you get up, physically go to that location. So let me ask you this. Do you get dressed to go to work?
I do. That is a second tip. I would suggest everyone to get out. I'm not saying you have to dress to a T and, have on some type of, business outfit. But yes, I do have to get out of my pajamas. I do have to brush my teeth, get cleaned up, get fresh and everything, and feel like I'm actually, getting out and not just staying in my nighttime zone.
Yeah, I mean,
So yes, I do get up and get dressed. I'll comb my hair. Now, again, I may not do everything that I would do as if I were getting out, but I at least still look presentable for myself. Because at times I do have meetings. And I'm sure we'll get to that at some point.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I was going. I was going there right now. I mean, as a person who believes in sleeping in the birthday suit, I mean, I feel like getting dressed is a part. I mean, that was easy for me. But I mean,
see, I wasn't trying to give all that information.
But for those of y'all in pajamas, then I mean, I guess y'all. I mean, it's probably a little bit more difficult for y'all because y'all can slouch around in pajamas all day. I'm not about to sit down in my office naked at the computer. I feel like that would be a little weird, just a little bit. So no, this is like I definitely wanted to get into the next part, and you was going to talk about being presentable for yourself or whatever. And this is the whatever part that I'm interested in discussing. I'm going to talk a little bit about this later in the week when we do our regular weekly podcast. We're going to do some work from home stuff too on there, but just that idea of meetings and communication with the other people in the office. How does that normally take place? What things do y'all do? Are y'all Slack? Do you do Google Hangouts? Do you do Zoom? Do you do Office whatever tools? How do y'all communicate in that way as an office?
Yeah, it's mainly Office tools. Well, Microsoft, we use Blue Jeans, and we use when we have a large group, we usually use Blue Jeans, and when it's just one or two, or if it's just one-on-one, I'll do Skype.
So, I mean, that's telling me a little bit about
And we do have Skype IM that we'll go back and forth with.
The reason I say that, it feels like it's a little bit more like it sounds like you've been doing this a while because you went to Slack. I mean, I'm sorry, not Skype. Because Skype seems like, if in anybody's mind, it was like the first one, right? Skype was the first thing that people did, like in regards to video, talking to somebody else. Everybody had a Skype account, and then it became, FaceTime. I think that Zoom is, from what I'm hearing everybody saying, Zoom is kind of the way that the wave that everybody's using right now. I had never heard of Blue Jean before, though.
And is that in a business environment or more?
Well, I absolutely I've seen it in both. Like I've seen people do what do they call these? The virtual happy hours or virtual whatever, because you can have multiple people in a Zoom meeting and it's a free tool, like for 45 up to 45 minutes. But at the university, we have like it's unlimited because we have an account there. But we have our Zoom meetings as an office. So let me ask you this: since the work from home thing started a few weeks ago, I have a meeting where I check in with the office at 9:30 in the morning, multiple times a week, at least 3 times a week, where it's a Zoom meeting. It's like your equivalent of Blue Jeans, where everybody's on it, and it's a video presentation where we have to like show our faces, and it's about, I don't know, they don't have an agenda. It's literally for the idea of people, I don't know what, communicating, like having social interaction.
Just socializing. Okay. Now, we actually talked about that today. And again, because I was usually the only one working from home.
Nobody cared about you. Nobody cared about your social well-being.
Either that or I shied away from the social. I was fine with not socializing as much. But I know that they all are when they're in the office, even when I do visit the office. Like, they're usually gathering around, talking to each other. And, yeah, that's just what they do in the office. So, as a matter of fact, they spoke about that earlier today, where one of the suggestions was Zoom. But like you said, for more of the social aspect, so that they wouldn't lose that, I guess, that special touch.
Can I tell you something, Tonya?
Everybody's at home.
As a person who doesn't do it,
be something that they consider.
As a person,
Blue Jeans.
As a person who hasn't done, who's like in the position that you are, because I work from home a lot in my job as well. And when I work from home, it'll be one-offs, and I'll be the only one at home, or somebody like our job is kind of that way where certain people can work from home, like so and so is working from home today, and it's not a big thing. Right. We all kind of understand how to do it. But now that everyone is, it's a big thing, right? It's going to be a culture shift because it feels, I'm just telling you from my perspective, it feels a lot more forced, and it feels like, oh my God, what are we talking about? Like, why are we sitting here looking at each other in the face? And the thing that kind of is weird to me, right. and I don't know how you're going to feel about this comment, but this is something that I've been feeling recently. I feel like it's a little intrusive to I feel like they're in my home. If that sounds a little weird. Like, if I'm accustomed to our interaction being at the job, around the water cooler or whatever it is, and then once I leave there, I'm going back to my real life. And now we're doing that while I'm in my own domicile. It feels more like, oh my God, why are y'all in my house? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree. And actually, a lot of folks in my group agree with that today, too. When a couple of people came up with more suggestions of how they could socialize, like they did mention having these meetings more often. And actually, my director, she was like, yeah, no, I don't need to see me in my... And this is my director speaking, but she's good people. And we all get along really well. We can say anything to each other, which is what's great about our group. But Yeah, she was the main one. Like, no, that won't be happening. If we do, maybe it'll be once a week when, we all know to put on put on something decent. But she said, I don't want y'all to see me with my hair all over the place and, whatever else she might be doing. So,
Yeah.
but it's interesting. Too, one of the other guys was so fine with it. This is interesting how people can be really social, and there's no judgment here. He even suggested outside of like virtual, he still wants them to, because they usually go to lunch together, still meet up at a restaurant somewhere or a drive-through and eat from their cars just to see each other.
Did you tell him that he's doing a lot? Did you tell him that he's doing too much? Please tell him he's doing too much. Please tell him he's doing too much.
What is really going on? But again, I'm not judging if that's what he feels.
Maybe that speaks to the extrovert introvert thing. Maybe that he needs the energy from other people to feel. Maybe
I guess so, but nobody else really commented on that. You heard crickets on the phone when he said, "So who all would like to do this?" And it was like,
"Who's coming with me?" Did he stand up like Jerry Maguire? All I want to know is who's coming with me. Nobody.
Nobody. That would be nobody.
Well, that's crazy.
Again, that just shows you the levels of, the different personalities.
So we, there's a statement that we talk about, like this meeting could have been an email. How often do you have to go to actual meetings normally? Like, and just normally, how often would you have to show up to these Blue Jean meetings? Like weekly, bi-weekly, every day?
No, definitely weekly. And that's one thing I would suggest for anybody who's just starting to work from home too. Being visible and, making sure that people still know that you are available, you are there to help, you are still working. You still need to make yourself known. So definitely, call in, check in as often as you can. What we do, or what I do with my team, I make sure that once a week, and again, I'm usually the one who's not there. They see each other every day, but I need to make sure that I check in and show my face to them at least once a week. And, just get a little status update, say how you doing, get a little business taken care of. So yeah, like once a week I'll meet with my direct team or my direct reports. And then twice a week, there are other stand-up meetings, like with our entire department or with a small subset of our department. So at least 3 to 4 times a week I'm in a meeting, and that's just, standing meetings. Of course, meetings can pop up from here to there, but I'd say the 3 to 4 standing meetings a week.
Okay, that makes sense. But not all of them are video meetings.
Not all.
Okay. I mean, I know that
at least 2 of them a week are.
I know that we do a thing that I don't know. I guess people are trying to get their footing. Something in my job, they send an email out, an email each morning saying, "Good morning, I'm working," and it becomes an email thread where it's like, I don't know, somebody always has to be the person who's trying to clock in at 6:41 a.m. like I'm working, and it like I was doing it and they had kind of asked us to do it. I kind of stopped doing it. Any day that we have a Zoom meeting at 9:30 in the morning, I'm not going to tell them, "Hello, I'm working at 8 o'clock." I'm just not. I'll see you at 9:30. But on the other days that we're not, then I'll tell them, "Hey, I'm up and I'm working." I don't know.
Were y'all required to do that?
Yeah, but I guess maybe I got to stop trying to buck the system. Yeah, we were required to say I'm working. But I mean, I feel like if I pop up at 9:30, then at that point, I'm working. Starting at that point, then maybe I'm wrong.
When you're working.
How long is your actual work day?
It may just be your directors or somebody just trying to make sure that y'all are.
No, absolutely.
Doing what you're supposed to do.
It's a bit of micromanagement, but I get it. So, but my question is, how long is your actual work day?
I still work an 8-hour day.
Okay. But is there any flexibility in it? Or are you really on the real time with everybody else who's in a different time zone as you?
Well, that is part of it too. I do work East Coast time because again, my company is in Florida. So I'm usually up at 7:30, which is of course 8:30 Eastern time. And I work until 4:30 usually. 4:30ish, 5 o'clock, just depends on what projects I have going on.
Okay.
Yeah, but for the most part,
So
I work an 8-hour day.
okay, so that talks about all of
And
the.
just like when you're in the office, no, you're not constantly working or constantly doing something. I mean, even when you're in the office, you're taking breaks, um, you're talking to your coworkers, I don't know, doing something different. You're not constantly working for 8 hours.
So I mean,
So
you
the
said that
same goes with me.
there are breaks there. So my questions are like, when you're having those breaks there, what are you doing in regards to ensuring that? And I guess the first thing I'm gonna ask is diet. Like actually
Hey,
having
you didn't say we were getting into diet.
diet as
Come
in
on.
food, not diet as in a diet. Like how are you making sure that you're eating lunch at the same times every day and all the rest of it, or breakfast or whatever that is?
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if I didn't mention that, but yeah, the schedule is the key. Like, you know, I log on at 7:30. I'll check my emails, make sure that what I don't have any projects outstanding. I look at my calendar, see if I have any meetings that day. And then usually by around 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm eating breakfast. Yeah, and I do catch a little bit of the view while I'm eating my breakfast. That's my little morning break. Um, go back to the computer, and then I really start my day, look at, whatever projects I have to work on that day or any new things that are coming in. I do set my lunchtime. Usually, I'm not as strict with the lunchtime because, again, it just depends on what I'm working on that day. But usually between 11:30, 12 o'clock, I'll try and take my break because, again, I try and coincide my time with East Coast time when they're usually breaking at around noon, 12:30. Um, and I'm not as good because I do eat a healthy breakfast. I guess I don't eat as much lunch, like it's just usually a quick lunch. And in the past, what I have done, and I'll be honest, I haven't been as consistent with it lately, but I'll usually go out for a jog or a walk during lunch. So that's like my time just to get out and, get some fresh air and get in a little exercise.
So I was going to ask you about that working out component because I know that in my normal 9 to 5 or whatever it is, when I go into the office, I mean, I'm there for a certain time. And a lot of times at lunch, I'll go to the gym during lunch, or I'll right when I'm right after work, I'll come home and get into my workout stuff and I'll hop on the elliptical after work. Do you feel like you have to make it a time to do that physical activity every day?
Yeah, I think you should. I think you definitely should.
I mean,
and even like you said, even if I don't get out for lunch to do it, I'll definitely make a point to do it regardless. At the end of the day, like that kind of is the sign of the end of my day. Like because you're working in the same environment, during the day, you kind of want to separate out, okay, work is over. I'm done.
mm-hmm.
So I leave the house and that's my signal that, work is done. So I'll either take my dog Tazzy for a walk or, I'll run a few errands or do something just to get out for an hour or two.
You did say
to signify that my work day is over.
You did say to go take that jog. So, I mean, I remember a few years back, and I mean, it's been a couple of years now, but I remember you trained for a half marathon, and then you ran a half marathon out there in Dallas, which seems like a dope accomplishment. What was your time? You remember?
Oh man.
10 hours and 45 minutes. 11 hours.
Look at my plaque again. I don't recall.
So I'm not gonna hold you to that.
No, I think it was it's like maybe 2 hours, and it was nothing. My whole goal with that half marathon was just to complete it jogging. So, and I did. So I think it was like maybe 2 hours and 40 minutes or something.
So did you do that more as a way to stay in shape, exercise, or was it more of a meeting new people thing? Because once again, this kind of goes back to this idea of working from home. I think a lot of people are freaking out about this idea of being in their house and can't go to the bar and can't go out to eat and can't go to the restaurant and they're not seeing people and they can't meet anybody new. Was that more of a social interaction thing, or a physical fitness thing?
Honestly, initially it was more of a physical fitness thing, but then it turned into a social interaction thing because, I met a few people through there. It actually was a boot camp that I started.
Mm-hmm.
And from the boot camp, a group decided to try and, they started doing a run club. And then from the run club, they decided to, hey, well, let's train for this half marathon. So that part was probably more of fitness, but it turned into more of a social thing. And that's what kept me going because I had met these people and, they were cheering you on and you had that support. That's why I continued on with the half marathon. But after then, I can tell you, I stopped. I stopped going to the boot camp
and fooling with them people,
the training, all of that. And at some point, I said, well, I need to get back into doing something I enjoy with jogging and kind of do the social, and meet people. So there was this late night run club that people would advertise, which was actually really cool.
Them late night runs.
Get together at a certain time at night, though, because during the day or the morning, you're not always a morning person, or you don't have time during the day. So, like at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, we'd run, meet up somewhere and do a few miles run. Okay. So that was more of a social thing.
I mean, yeah, that sounds like a cool thing. It reminds me of like some of the night bike rides people do in and around the city, but a night run sounds like a cool thing as well. I mean, like just that whole idea, I guess, like of do you find that you have enough of a friend circle that you don't really feel like you need to have like meeting new people in that way? So it's like kind of like that's not necessary.
My motto is no new friends.
Is that your motto? That sounds like maybe it's Aubrey Graham's, but I'll let you have it if that's your motto. So you don't need the new friends.
Actually, I do have an awesome group of friends already, and of course, I always do welcome new friends, acquaintances. But for the most part, I feel like I'm fine in my life where I am. I don't need to actually reach out to bring in new, if it happens organically, of course, I'm open to it. But.
So, on being on the Best Friend Weekend podcast, you do have a little bit of an audience. I know you haven't necessarily thought about this, but is there any other things that you do outside of work that you like want to promote, or anything that you're like, that's some passions that you want to get started? It doesn't necessarily have to be something you want to promote, but just something that you've thought about, like that you want to do with other time that you have outside of the job.
Let me think. Nothing that I would really want to promote right now. But, my new interest is definitely real estate investments.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's something I've been looking into and actually talking to a few of my friends who've already been investing in, rental properties or flipping homes and that type thing. So, I don't know. Yeah, you might be hearing from me in the near future with some new business adventures in that arena. But
you already own rental properties, though, correct?
What's that?
You already own rental properties, correct?
I do own one.
Okay. So there you go. Children's steps. There you go. That's like
exactly. Baby steps.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. So like I said, I do have another question that's very pressing to me. You said you're in Dallas and your voice sounds a little kind of away. Why are you still traveling? I saw you was out of the country on social media this week. So why are you still going out of the country and traveling and not listening to our president?
Alan, were we talking about this on this
What?
I didn't think that was part of it.
I asked you a question. So I sandbagged you with the question right now. So the reason I asked this is because people talk, like, this is something I've considered. Like, this is, now, honestly, you didn't go out of town this week, but you were out of town, like, fairly recently. And my thing is, I was thinking about it, like, if I had already paid to go on a trip and all of the things were already taken into account, would I go on that trip? What was the calculus you did when you ended up making that decision?
So I'll be honest, the trip was planned like over the summer, and this was a big one because it was my my sorority sisters and our 25 years in Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Ooh. So
was all that necessary?
We had to celebrate, and it was already planned, And honestly, before we left, when was the date? It was March 11th, I believe. And if you think back, that was what, a little over
That was right
a
after
week and a
Best
half
Friend
ago.
Weekend, so it was
It
right
was it was
when it
right
was.
before right before the mass hysteria of all of this. I'm sure Trump and the government knew what was going on, but a lot of the public didn't really know how serious things were. And honestly, it didn't seem to get very serious until we were actually away, and that part was pretty scary. We were in paradise. It was great while we were there, but talking to folks back home and
They should have quarantined y'all. They should have
listening to
kept
some
y'all
of the
over there.
news, we were actually kind of worried if we would make it back to the States.
They should have made y'all
So
stay in
that part
paradise
was a bit
and work.
concerning.
That's what they should have did. You could have worked from home in paradise. That's what you should have stayed and not brought the
I mean,
corona back
that's
to
what
Dallas.
People were telling us that we may have wanted to just stay out there. So, but yeah, we were let back into the country, so that was a plus. And honestly, I was surprised that we went through customs in Miami, and I was very surprised that there weren't more stringent, health checks or anything at that point. I had heard a few other airports maybe did have some backlogs because they were doing some health screenings, but nope, they just let us all in Miami.
Florida,
with,
man. Here.
With nothing. And interestingly enough, the place that we actually visited, we went to Barbados. Before we even were allowed to enter into the airport, they did check us. They and mind you, it wasn't anything very stringent. They just checked our temperature. But at least you can, they could say they did something.
Well, Trump, he calls those shithole countries, but it looks like they were doing the things that they needed to do to keep themselves safe.
They were doing what
as opposed to
exactly.
As opposed to this place. So when you came back, you flew back to Dallas. What's I mean, I was just going to ask you what's live about Dallas, but I don't really want to know because I know Dallas isn't live in my opinion. But how is Dallas like the pulse of the city with the coronavirus? How does it feel out there?
Initially, I think there was a mad rush. And again, I wasn't here at the time. I guess I was thankful for that. But I did hear, a lot of the grocery stores, of course, the shelves were empty, and people were, around just looking for toilet paper. I don't understand. I still don't get the toilet paper. I don't understand. But okay. Yeah, a lot of things on the shelves were empty, but I think for the most part now, a lot of people are adhering to the local, county stay-at-home orders.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing though is interesting. A lot of two of the bigger counties, Dallas and Denton counties, they do have strict guidelines where they're outlining that non-essential businesses should be temporarily closed, and they list the things that you can leave your house for, but of course they're advocating you staying at home. But there's one county, Collin County, which is a neighboring one. They're basically saying the same, but they're considering all businesses essential. And basically that means they all can stay open as long as they're following, the social distancing, those rules, the 6 feet away and no more than 10 people. And I don't know, that's interesting to me. That just goes to show how
Red State 101 is what that is, Tonya. Like that is.
I'm not sure if it's just red state or if it's what's
business
happening all
owners.
the US.
No, I mean, like I feel like that's
the
more
point of some people doing what we're supposed to do, and then other counties or neighboring counties or areas, they aren't doing it. So,
but my point is just, I think it's more. You heard that guy, the Texas senator or whatever he was, representative, who went out there and said old people would die so that the economy.
Yeah, that was actually our lieutenant governor.
So there you go.
Believe it or not,
like
yes.
So get my point. Like a lot of people are looking at this as an economic thing, and if I want to be reelected and whatever, like the economy needs to stay together.
That's exactly what the Collin County guy, the commissioner, said.
There you go.
He said that he had a lot of citizens worried about their economic health, which again I understand and I can feel for the people. I actually have a couple of friends I know who have been impacted and who are impacted. They've, they're put on furlough or they've lost their jobs for now. So I get that, that sense of it. But I don't know, I guess it's a catch-22. We can have economic health or we can have our personal health and survival. So,
And when they say health is wealth, they don't mean economic health. That is not what anyone means. No one means that. So, no, I mean, definitely, it means your personal health. So I just think it's counterproductive, and a lot of places are going to do it. And I mean, we both live in Texas, whether I say red state or whatever, but we both live in Texas. You live in Dallas. I live in Houston. We live in big, urban, like sprawling urban centers of the state of Texas, liberal hubs where people are like really kind of have that belief in kind of, strong government. And then once you kind of start petering out into the smaller counties in and around, it's going to be a lot more of that. It's going to be a lot more of that
exactly.
Small business Joe the plumber shit, where it's like we need to keep these people open to do it. And I feel for the business owners.
Again,
I do.
That's
but
what I was about to say. I'm not downplaying Joe the plumber or anybody else getting their hustle on or trying to keep their business afloat.
you got to diversify though. At this point, this is an unprecedented time. Have you ever? You're my older sister. Obviously, you've lived longer than me. Have you ever?
You think?
Have you ever saw or remember a time in your life that's more like crazy and uncertain as it is right now?
No, not at all. And I think I've been hearing that from just about everyone of every age. Even our parents are saying they can't remember a time where it seemed, this serious, where people were actually asked to stay home.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the closest I can think of would maybe be 9/11, but that doesn't even come close to this.
Yeah, because it was really centralized.
The response, exactly.
But it was centralized, but yeah, I guess everybody was a little on edge because we didn't know where they might attack next part. So I get that part, that anywhere it could happen. Like Katrina and things of that nature happened, but we knew it wasn't going to be like, oh shit, Katrina might happen in Wyoming.
Exactly.
People weren't scared in that way.
It could happen to anybody. And it is. It can, and it is happening to any and everybody of all walks of life.
Especially us young people, right?
Us young people.
Us young people.
Princes, whatever.
That's our inside joke.
I consider myself young at heart still, yes.
Young people are 19 and 20 years old. We are above 35. We are not young people. But we'll just let that happen.
You can speak for yourself.
Okay, we're not old people, put it that way. So now I'm not about to let you get off of here. I know everybody trying to steal your work from home swag, so I wanted to make sure that you were able to help some individuals who have that. But I'm definitely,
of course, I'll tell everybody, welcome to my world.
I'm not gonna let you off of here without having some big sister talk. We talked about your new home in Dallas, but let's talk about our home growing up just a little bit. Some big sister moments that stick out to me that I just want to say thank you for. One is, let me take your car in New Orleans a lot. When I was in college, I was very thankful for that. Especially when I didn't have a car like my freshman and sophomore year. That was really clutch. I used to have a whole bunch of goons in the whip, and we used to do wild stuff. However,
Wait, what car is this and when?
The Mazda, the MX-3.
Ah.
It was a stick,
okay.
And I remember I used
to take that Mazda.
Yeah, a lot of times. It was tough to. It was a standard, so it wasn't because I didn't take your Passat like that. I took your Passat from Tallahassee.
I do remember
to Atlanta.
Time. Yes, I'll let you use my brand new Passat.
Yeah, that was a fun weekend.
Cross state lines.
Oh man, it went down. We drove to Atlanta. I parked your car. I hopped in the whip with Jay. We went down Peachtree. We went back. Girls, parties, hanging out. Because we was running from Rita. That was after Katrina. It was like Katrina had happened. And then Rita was about to happen. And I was like, I'm not about to stick around for this. So we came to Tallahassee for Rita. I definitely remember. It was a super long drive.
Right.
And then as soon as I got there, I was like, let me take your car and go to in Atlanta. I got some people to check on.
Thinking?
I got some people to check. I was like 22. I was still a young people.
I'm trying to think. What was I thinking at the time?
Well, it leads me to believe that Tallahassee was just as boring as what you said it was. You had nothing going on there where you needed a car. You was like, sure.
Or maybe I had a drink or two before. Who knows what was going on?
Go ahead, take my car. Go to Tallahassee. Maybe I asked my parents and they said no. I don't remember. But that was clutch though. One time for the one time. A little before that, we're gonna go back a little bit. My Sigma probate. I thought that was dope when you guys came. That's a picture that we always have sitting there. Now, my question is, I remember as a youngster coming to your crib at in Lafayette, and you had a Q Dog shirt, and it was in like a box or something. And I remember putting it on, and I remember you being like, "Take that off. You can't wear a Q Dog shirt because whatever the case is." And you know, in retrospect, stop telling them niggas to have to be leaving their shirts all around your house. That's for one.
That's what I'm saying. Why are you telling my business?
But for two, that's in the ancient past. But for two, when I said, "Hey, Tonya, guess what? I'm gonna be a Sigma." What was your thought? Were you like, "Oh my God, Sigmas are lame"? What was your thought? Because I know how Deltas feel about us in real life. I know how y'all be doing it. So
no, you see, you don't know clearly.
So explain.
Because actually, and I'm gonna tell my age at USL or UL. I guess
USL. The Bulldog.
The Sigmas at USL at the time that I pledged, or the time when I was around, were actually super cool and they were really nice and really cool dudes. Like, a lot of my sorority sisters dated them, and they were always around to give us a hand and whatever. So we didn't look at them as lame at all. So no, when you said that you wanted to be a Sigma, I thought of those guys. I knew they were good people. And hey, I was cool with it. Now, you're right. If you would ask Linnell that, she would say, yeah, well, why would he want to do something so lame? Or anybody else, they might. But shout out to Go Mob and all my people's back.
At USL back in the day.
Exactly. All my Sigmas.
Well, one time for the one time. DJ Chill, the fake Sigma, and all of them. And all the rest of them. No, but I definitely remember that as being a thing because, and I'm trying to juxtapose the two things because I was figuring, you know, I've heard that from our substantial Delta family that, you know, certain things, and you know, I go to even family reunions. Some of our cousins are Qs, and they talk about that link. I just never felt that affinity towards Omega Psi-Phi as I did to like Delta because of, you know, you guys and my aunt and stuff. Like, there was no Qs around, and when I did the calculus, it was more Sigmas around that I knew, like, as far as kind of like even family members and mentors in school and at Xavier and different things of that nature. And it was like, nah, I think Sigmas have kind of played a bigger role in you know, kind of my upbringing at that time in that regard than Qs. I didn't even have any Qs that I knew, so it became you know, it's a thing. So one time for the one time, you know, I appreciate y'all guys coming through for that. That was a big night, man.
Yeah, that was a fun night. We were excited to see that. I was surprised, but okay.
Oh, okay. So this was a question. I was going to ask this.
One mic performing by itself. That's the part that surprised me.
So that was going to be a question. Is that when you, I don't know, was it then that you knew I was live? Or was it before that? Or was it when I was a rapper? Like, when did you really be like, my little brother is actually cool and people think he's cool outside of me?
I mean, are you? I think I'm confused as to when
there
that
she go.
Like,
come to Best Friend Weekend,
no,
you'll see.
I've always thought you were cool, Al. Now you have your quirks, of course, but we won't get into that.
That is not a real answer, though, Tonya. I don't think that's a real answer. You said you've always thought I cool. When you are a looking at your 9-year-old brother, you don't think he's a cool little 9-year-old. When you're looking at your 14-year-old brother, you're not like, oh, he's cool. There was probably a moment. There was a moment somewhere where you were like, oh no, he's actually cool. Like other people think he's cool. That's in his demographic. I'll let you think on it. No, I'll let you think on it. I mean, because this is like we having a cathartic moment right here. This is family. I'm giving you virtual hugs. You feel me? And you're not reciprocating right now. You're pushing me back. You're pushing me away.
Me to start to think about some things. I don't know.
I'm gonna back up a little bit. So was it that moment, or was it? I was watching All American on Netflix the other day, and they had this scene where the girl did her cotillion, and it made me think back to my botillion, and I'm like, you know, I don't think I was cool yet then. So I'm not even gonna. I mean, I remember you guys there. I just don't remember being cool yet at that. In that regard.
Honestly, I guess I started thinking, yes, of course, I was proud of you when you pledged Sigma. And I probably did think a little bit more of you at that point. Like, okay, he might be, he might turn out okay. Um, no, I was really proud of you, I think, as a teacher. Like, and I know it sounds small or, it may not sound like a lot, but the fact that I was always proud to tell people that you were a young male. Well, of course, you have to be educated to be an educator, but that you could have done so many other things with your computer engineering degree and, gone off into, corporate America or done so many other things. And I'm saying big things, but that's all relative. But the fact that you chose to, go and teach our youth, mathematics, algebra, those things, and still mentor them, be there for them. I thought that was very, that's when I was like, okay, that's a good little dude.
So that speaks to, I mean, it's honestly, it's interesting because it speaks to a little bit of our age difference in that what you thought was cool would never be what I thought was cool at the same time until like a time like that. That makes a bunch of sense when you say it that way. Like at the age you were and the age I was when I was teaching, that was probably something that you're like, like I didn't think it was like the coolest thing on earth to be a school teacher, but I can think if a person in their 30s, if I'm in my 30s and I got like a little cousin or whatever who's like in their early 20s and they're teaching, I'd probably be like, oh, that's dope. Like, look at them being a mentor to some kids. Like, I would think that about them at that point. So that makes a lot of sense now that you say it. I do want you to apologize for one thing. You used to, when we would be driving home, the music would be playing in the car, and it would and it would be LL Cool J, and you would make me run in the house and turn it on BET or MTV because you was like, the video gonna be on because the song is on the radio, and it never was. And then we would have to watch videos. So I need you to apologize for that because I don't feel like that was.
Not do. I thought you were going to, me making y'all listen to certain types of music, but hey.
Well, that too.
It's just a matter of you running into.
I mean, I don't know what my music tastes were.
Running to watch videos, it could have been much worse.
I don't know what my music tastes were at a young age. I really have no clue. That's that's something you would know more than me. Like what I was trying to hear, but
I didn't care what you were trying to hear. Like if you got in the car with me, or if you were around me, you were listening to gangster rap probably at the time, or unfortunately, I probably had y'all listening to things y'all should not have listened to.
The J, the I, the M,
like to
the
think
I.
I shaped a little bit of your musical inclination.
I mean, and that's probably a thing, man. Look, so this one other question, and I think that this is an interesting question that I'm having. Like, I mean, I talk about people having old parents, people having young parents, and people having regular age parents. And I think that it's funny that I think Kristen and me both had regular age parents, and you had young parents. I think that that's a very different thing. Like, it's a different relationship that you had with our parents growing up. I don't know. I think that that's just something that I'm never going to know about having young parents. What do you think's the difference between having young parents and having like older parents or just regular age parents? What do you know about our parents that I don't know? And I don't mean that in a really weird way. I mean it more in a way of like, what do you think you see about them that's very different because they were, younger when you was running around, when they used to just kind of have you in the car with no seatbelt and shit like that?
Well, I mean, I do think about those different things, how things were so much more carefree, I guess, back then.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't worry about as much, but at the same time, I still think like as I got older and you guys came along, but again, that probably goes to them. They were they were getting older and a little wiser. I did notice the difference of how you guys were. You may think that, okay, they were stricter on you, but they weren't. Like, I think I got more of the, I had curfews. I had, when my friends could go out and do certain things, I couldn't do it. And I saw where they were a lot more lax with you guys.
Well, I don't think I'm the best example because I'm a guy. I think they let me do more stuff because I was the youngest and I was a guy.
That even went for Kristen too. That went for both of y'all.
Okay. All of y'all, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna harbor that. You got to go to private school till you was in 10th grade. No.
And I did not want to. I can look back and appreciate it now, but hey.
They sent me to the Wolves when I was 11 years old. Go play with the street cheering. But no, you.
No, I probably was more of the experiment child. So yeah, they got a few more things right with y'all probably.
Yeah, I mean, as evidenced by, but they didn't do bad with you, Tonya. I feel like you were great, definitely a great role model and everything of the sort. But yeah, I mean,
wouldn't disagree.
I told you 45 minutes. It's creeping up closer to an hour. So I just want to look once again. I know you got stuff to do. You're probably on the clock right now, working from home with your one computer open right now, and then recording this podcast with the other. Because I know I sure am. So I'm gonna have to text these people and say done work after I'm finished this. But nah, I appreciate you spending some time with us and all of that good stuff. You know, and hopefully we'll do this again. I definitely want to do it again.
Yeah, this was fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. But like always, you know, until next time, you guys have a great weekend.
You know, they say
Make it a best friend weekend. Even though every day feels like the weekend because we don't know what day it is, and we might be the weekend.
Nothing nice to say, but Aldo NICE.
I ain't got nothing, nothing. I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing nice to say. I ain't got nothing nice to say. Oh, I ain't got nothing, nothing. I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing nice to say. I ain't got nothing nice to say.
So I won't say nothing at all.
I ain't nothing nice. You hear me?